Welcome to part one of Professor Cooper's super awesome Avoiding Plagiarism and Citing an APA style video. We are going to be talking about referencing in this course. At the end of the video, you're going to know what plagiarism is, what APA style is and why it's used, how to reference in paragraphs you write using APA style, what are also called in-text or parenthetical citations, how to reference at the end of your work using an APA style reference list, and, most importantly, how to avoid plagiarizing. So what is plagiarism? Well, it's using someone else's words or ideas without giving them credit for using them. If you borrow something, you have to give credit for it. And the way to do this is to cite or reference properly, and that's about what I'm going to teach you. APA style is a style of citation or referencing that comes from the American Psychological Association. People working in the field of psychology are all familiar with APA style. Anytime you want to publish anything, write a doctoral dissertation or a master's thesis, or a big paper in a psychology class, you're going to use the guidelines set forward by the American Psychological Association. People in other social science disciplines often use APA style as well because it's such a nice, consistent way of referencing information. You have to reference in two places. The first place is in text. That's in the body of your paragraph or in the context of a sentence. This provides basic information about where you got this stuff. Usually it's a last name or last names with the year of publication. And it allows you to find the complete reference information in the reference section that comes at the end of your work. Then, like I just mentioned, the other place you need to reference is at the end of your work in the reference section. This is where you provide the complete reference information, everything a person needs for finding a source, and it's alphabetized. So first we're going to look at in-text citations, and these are citations within the body of your paragraph, within the body of a sentence, in the stuff you're writing. I've made up a little paragraph here. When I was a kid, I used to go camping and the adults would take us out in the middle of the night with a pillowcase and a flashlight to hunt for wild snipes. And if you flashed the flashlight into the open pillowcase, we were told that the wild snipe would jump inside and then you could close it up and take it back to the campsite. So I've made up this paragraph here to give you some examples about citing within the bodies of your paragraphs. So let's read through this. The wild snipe is an amazing creature that eats moths and small children at night. And this information came from Cooper, 2009. According to Roby, in 1998, the pillowcase technique is successful at capturing a wild snipe in 78% of the cases. Now notice, this is the same information as in the Cooper reference. It provides the last name and the year of publication, but it's done in a different way here. It still has the same information, it's just that you're using the author's last name in your sentence, and so then the date is in parentheses. In this last case, it's even a little more different. It also has the date and the author's last names, but it again does it in a different way. In 2011, Jones and Martin published a study that examined children who had caught snipes using pillowcases and found that white pillowcases were best. So again, same information's provided, it just looks a little different based on how you put together your sentence. So the parentheses vary according to how the material is discussed, and there are no quotation marks. And what this means is I used entirely my own words to paraphrase the so-called findings from these experts. Of course, I made it all up, but that's how it would look. Now I'm going to show you how it looks when you add in quotations. So notice here, the first sentence, the snipe is, here's the quote, particularly attracted to bright light when it's dark. End of quote. And this is from the author's last name, comma, the year 2007, comma, P period, and then 226. So this is the page number. P period is how APA says you discuss page number. This is all in parentheses. Now I'm going to show you how it's done maybe a little bit differently when you use the author's name or names in a sentence. So according to Thomas, and then look at this, here's the date right after Thomas's name in parentheses. Individuals are, and here's the quote, only successful 10% of the time in catching a wild snipe, regardless of the method used. End of quote, and then in parentheses, P period for page and 79. Notice the period is on the outside of the parentheses here. So, I want you to notice this. When quoting, add in the page number. If you are just summarizing or paraphrasing like I was doing in the previous example, you do not need a page number. You need to use quotation marks around whatever it is that you are borrowing from this person. Their exact words. So don't change the words around, because then you can't put quotation marks around it. And this becomes sometimes an awkward place where students are trying to use their own words. Maybe they change the order of the sentence, maybe they look up some words in the thesaurus and they try to come up with it in their own words, but it doesn't really work, and they can't no longer quote it because it's not exactly the author's words, but they are actually plagiarizing because they haven't put it entirely in their own words. So if you can't change something around and put it all in your own words, if you can't make it like read it and then put it all together for yourself, you have to just leave it as it is and use quotations. That is my advice.